Hi, I'm Stephanie Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Hello there, I hope you're excited as I am now that we have new videos on the first Tuesday of every month. And we're hoping that we can bring back the weekly videos very, very soon. In addition, I'll be doing email submissions from you guys and making videos out of them on the second week of the month. And I'll be doing monthly live streams again on the last week of every month. When there's not a new video, we'll be doing compilations from our incredible archive of the scariest stories from around the world, so we hope you enjoy.
It was that time again, time for our town's annual carnival, a well-loved autumn tradition despite the odd mishap or disappearance that would occur. The carnival was always welcomed back each year. I'd be going with Brian and Anne, a couple of wallflowers, but also the only friends I had from school. The sun was setting as we headed inside the carnival. String lights in every color decorated all the booths and rides. The smell of hot dogs and funnel cakes wafted through the air. The crowd was thick, and everyone's attention was scattered, so I reached out and slapped a little boy's tub of popcorn out of his hand. The fluffy kernels flew up as I tipped my head back and laughed at his shocked face. Anne and I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel first, but Brian didn't want to, saying something about loose supports and the tired worker at the controls. Looking at it, it did seem like the whole thing was going to fall apart, but I wasn't about to back down. I teased Brian until we were all finally loaded into the Ferris wheel car. The wheel turned, taking us up, and over the carnival. I loved heights, and looked over at Brian. I started making our car rock and squeak. Brian covered his face with his hands. Stop doing that, he exclaimed. I laughed at him as I peered out across the carnival. From this high up, I spotted an old carousel, hidden behind some trees. It was lit up, but nobody was near it. No line? That would be our next ride. It was further away than the other attractions. It was dark out now and quiet. Anne, Brian, and I approached the carousel. It was surprisingly rusty, with chipped paint and some of the lights crowning the top were burnt out. Brian and Anne stopped as I walked closer to get a better look. The horses had seen better days, and they were worn and rusted, smiling figures dancing along the center circle. In the center column of the carousel were faded portraits of laughing clowns. This one seems really messed up. I'm out, Anne said. Well, I hadn't walked out here for nothing. I wasn't scared of a kiddie ride. Jeering at them both, I boarded the carousel alone and vaulted onto a palomino horse. As soon as I did, the lights of the carousel glowed brightly, and cheery music began to play. Creaking to life, it started to turn. I grinned as the music got louder and my horse rode up and down, around, faster and faster, until Brian and Anne were blurred figures among the trees. The carousel kept twirling, faster and faster. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy and stiff. Out of the corner of my eye, it looked like one of the dancing figures had started moving. But when I looked right at it, they were all still. I wanted to get off. I slid off the horse. I was spinning so fast. I was so dizzy. Something grabbed me. The dancing figures. While I wasn't looking at them, they had been moving. And not only them. My mouth stretched into a wide, disbelieving grin as the laughing clowns on the walls came to life, reaching out, grabbing my other arm. And I started being yanked between the dancing figures and the laughing clowns as the carousel spun faster and faster, and the music got louder and louder, and I was being pulled by both of them harder and harder. Anne and Brian watched the carousel, mouths agape. It was so blurred they couldn't even see their friend. Something wet and warm splashed against Anne's face. She pressed her hand against her face, and looking down, she saw that it was blood. Brian screamed as an arm was flung in front of him. Finally, the carousel began to wind down. Horses slowing as the music faded. The blood splattered across the carousel. Anne and Brian's screams trailed off into the distance. I stood frozen and rust amid the strange figures trapped on the carousel, my last wide grin frozen before it could become the scream I meant for it to be. My body was torn apart, but my soul would stay and ride this carousel forever.
I had never planned to move back to Kentucky, but after my mom passed away, I took my son Tyler through the Appalachian Mountains and headed back to my childhood home. Lots of things creep me out about Kentucky, especially the legend of Sprinkles, the killer clown. In 1973, a caravan of circus performers were making its way across the mountains when a bad storm set in. The icy roads finally got the better of the caravan, and the cars piled up on the side of the road. Many died at the scene, and one of those vehicles, carrying 5 clowns, wasn't discovered for days. Finally, the police found 3 remaining clowns who had survived and revealed the fate of the rest of their party from the wreck. And it was pretty grim. A clown known as Sprinkles, who was not part of the group, had kept them tied up like hostages. Sprinkles forced the hostages to eat the dead performers from the wreck and said that he had planned on eating them too if he couldn't keep his hunger down. It wasn't until one of the victims got his hands free that he was able to untie the others. Years later, pictures taken on a trail cam in eastern Kentucky showed Sprinkles very much alive. Although photos were shown all over the news, he was never caught. The story had terrified me as a kid, and I was lost in thought when the sounds of the ice cream truck jolted me back to reality. We headed over to where it had stopped, and wouldn't you know it, the driver was a damn clown. My stomach clenched. His smile was wide as we approached him, and I didn't know if it was paranoia, but I swear he was staring directly at my son. Tyler seemed a bit surprised, but went about ordering his cone with chocolate sprinkles.
"Great choice, kid,"
said the clown, then looked over at me. I started taking my wallet out, but he waved his hand.
"No charge today. Just delicious ice cream. Bye now."
He waved his goodbyes and drove off. I was left feeling slightly confused. Despite his creepy appearance, the clown was surprisingly polite. The next day, the ice cream truck returned, blasting the same music from its speakers.
"Ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream."
The same line repeated over and over again. I still didn't really like the idea of Tyler heading out by the truck alone, so I walked out with him. The clown waved at us, as he had done so on the previous day, and handed Tyler a chocolate cone with sprinkles. This time, he looked over at me and said $3.50. I laughed at first, since yesterday he said it was free. But then he told me that was only for new customers. Damn it, I thought to myself. I'd left my wallet inside the house. I took a deep breath, and with one eye on Tyler, I hurried back in and grabbed a $5 bill and raced outside. He handed me the change and drove off.
"See you tomorrow, kid,"
he called out. The next day, at the same time, I heard the familiar song. This continued every day for weeks, and then months, and each time after buying an ice cream and chatting with the guy, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could trust this particular clown after all.
"The usual?"
he asked Tyler, who'd nod, licking his lips while I paid. Then he'd drive off with his music blaring. On the last day of Tyler's summer break from school, I was watching TV when I heard the familiar song. Tyler came running down the stairs. My program was interrupted with a breaking story. I told Tyler to grab my wallet and go get ice cream by himself today. Tyler jumped for joy as he grabbed the money and ran outside. The newscaster mentioned that over the past few months, kids have started to go missing, and witnesses are saying that a clown has targeted kids who were alone and pulled them into his truck. A picture popped up on the screen of a clown that looked familiar, same wig and costume. My heart skipped a beat. It was Sprinkles, the killer clown. "Tyler!" I screamed as I jumped from the couch and ran outside. Grabbing my keys between my fingers, I saw Tyler reaching out for his ice cream. "Tyler, get away!" I shouted. The clown dropped the ice cream, and in seconds, I reached the truck and swung my hand holding the keys, stabbing him in the eye. He fell to the ground screaming, blood pouring down his face. I knew he was a child killer and a cannibal. I was glad I had stopped him. Grabbing Tyler, we locked ourselves inside and waited for the police to arrive. As I held Tyler close, I explained what I'd seen on the news. I turned up the volume to show him, and that's when the news anchor announced that the police had caught the guy who had been snatching children, and he was now in custody. But if they caught that guy, then what had I done? Tyler looked at me with real fear in his eyes, only this time, the fear was directed at me. I had just attacked an innocent man because of a costume he was wearing, because of a conditioning I'd been exposed to that all clowns were dangerous. As these sirens approached our house, I couldn't help but wonder, if the real Sprinkles had been caught, was I now the monster?
Araceli and Jeff were excited to move into their new home. They had been married for a few weeks and finally found the perfect place by the woods. Their moving boxes were neatly stacked by the shed near the end of the driveway. Araceli noticed an old box with yellowed tape she couldn't recall packing, but it had her name on it. When she sliced it open with the box cutter, she found some old belongings. Her mom must have added the box to their things. It was filled with old photos and mementos from her childhood home that she hadn't seen since she left for college. She pulled out a horn, a keepsake she had from a school trip to the circus long ago. Without thinking, she honked the horn, and the memories came flooding back. She remembered leaving a red and yellow circus tent and following her classmates into the funhouse right next to it. She lost herself in the multitude of mirrors, and when she emerged from the funhouse, she realized she had missed the bus back to school. She didn't remember how long she was in there, only that she had found a toy horn. She squeezed it, and as it echoed through the maze, a clown appeared. What was his name? Its face bore a smile, and it danced all around her. He helped her find a way out. She would never be alone, it promised. Just give the horn a honk whenever she needed him. Outside, there were ambulance lights everywhere. While she had been stuck in the funhouse, there had been a terrible school bus accident. She was the only survivor of the tragedy. A woman standing on the street told her it had crashed when a circus clown crossed in front of it, causing it to swerve off the road and killing everyone on board. Flopsy? Fancy Flopsy? She recalled the clown's name aloud. Jeff laughed nervously. Fancy Flopsy sounds creepy. He probably wouldn't like me stealing you from him, he joked, trying to lighten the mood as he took some boxes of things upstairs. Araceli is my girl. When they were done unpacking, they opened the shed to put up their seasonal holiday decorations. That's when she saw it, standing in the center, a funhouse mirror. Araceli was taken aback from the coincidence, first the horn and now the mirror. Jeff, what is this doing here? She asked, seeing someone cross behind her reflection. When she looked closer, she realized that it wasn't Jeff. It was Fancy Flopsy giving her a wave. When she turned around, she almost crashed into Jeff, who had come back out with more boxes in hand. She laughed at herself. Sorry, I just got caught up in a memory, I guess. In bed later that night, she wondered if she had really imagined Fancy Flopsy. She'd left the bathroom light on and the door open a crack just to be safe. From what? She wasn't sure. Her memories of him were scattered after they'd met. Should she be afraid of him? She wondered. He was her imaginary friend growing up and had left him behind when she got older. As her eyes grew heavy, she saw a figure moving in the room. Jeff must have gotten up, but then he snored right behind her. Suddenly wide awake, her vision cleared and she saw a powder white face with fancy red makeup cracked around beady eyes and smeared over an elongated smile. The face of someone she hadn't seen in such a long time, someone she thought she imagined earlier and began to recall how very real he was.
Fancy Flopsy is your friend. Fancy Flopsy has found you again,
the clown said from the mirrored closet. as the light went out. Araceli screamed in the darkness and the blankets were ripped off of her. With a clown honk and laugh, Flopsy's voice was all around her.
I found you!
What's going on? Jeff shouted, flipping the light switch on near the mirrored closet. Before Araceli could answer, Flopsy jumped out of the mirror and held the box cutter above Jeff. The clown laughed as he began to slash Jeff.
No one can take my Araceli away from me.
Araceli tried yelling at the clown to stop, but its mouth began to absorb Jeff. Its hair coiled around his body. She blacked out. When she woke up, she heard the toilet flush. When she rubbed her eyes, she saw Jeff standing over her, wishing her a good morning. After she explained her horrible dream, Jeff hugged her close. "It's okay, honey. No one can take me away from you," he said at his reflection in the mirror, which revealed his true identity. A smile crossed Fancy Flopsy's face as he held his long-awaited prize, Araceli.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.